Hi and welcome back to the Citizen channel on a part 2, yes, so make sure you've checked out part 1, guys. Yes, of course, with the international break in November, we're halfway through that as I'm recording this. Journalists, I'm not a journalist myself, I just do things for the channel and history stuff. I'm working on a kanji thing at the moment, of course, so out on loan, but doubtful he'll come back, so I'm doing a little special on him, but I'm working on that anyway. But other journalists are sort of touting around for things to have a look at and look into, of course. We've got the 115 rearing its ugly head, of course, amongst the fans and journalists at the moment. But yeah, interesting. I looked at obviously I check our local papers, you know, if you look at my vlogs, I do stats from the paper, etc. for City, and I was looking through the Manchester Evening News. I think it was published on the 15th of November. It was probably printed on the 14th. And Tyrone Marshall did a little special piece to sort of pass the time on the City player ratings of the season so far. So I thought I'd have a look, see if I could disagree or agree with him, and come up with a couple of vlogs. And this is part 2. So check out part 1 of his thoughts and what my thoughts would be. This is what Tyrone Marshall wrote in his article as a header to it. He said, City were 13th in the Premier League during September international break, were 5th in the October one, and now sit second as domestic action takes a breather in November. Their rise has been a story of steady improvement, 17 games in all competitions, 3 of those have ended in defeat, but only 1 has come in the previous 14 games. They recovered from that loss at Villa to record 4 successive wins in all competitions, and a 3-0 win against Liverpool last weekend was a statement result and performance that proved Pep's side are well and truly back. Okay. With the action coming thick and fast when the Premier League resumes, this is how the players have rated so far this season. Players must have played 5 games or more in all competitions to be rated. So there you go. Will I agree or disagree, basically? I will give you my thoughts. I'll use the players' ratings that I use anyway all season for the Manchester Evening News and my own, just to sort of look and see what Tyrone is saying is backed up. And of course, we can use these as well, can't we? Our eyes. It's not all about stats. I love stats, don't get me wrong, but it's not all about stats. It's about looking at these as well. And please, guys, give us your thoughts as well. So we'll have a look at the rest of the team, and plus Pep as well. Tyrone didn't look at Pep, but I've done a quick conclusion on Pep as well. I'm putting my head above the parapet as usual on Pep, but stay tuned for that, guys. Please, if you do, before I go on, if you do like the channel, like the content, like my feeble efforts, a bit of a cold at the moment, but I'm manfully, as we do us men, working through it. Please hit that like button. Helps the algorithms, helps the channel, of course. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. My thanks and warm love to everybody. I've just gone over 50,000 subscribers now, so my love to everyone out there. Thank you so much. Of course, memberships are available. You want to do that for me as well. Some little treats on the when you become a member. As well, and plans for the future. I've got something to announce hopefully in the next few weeks, months on that as well, so extra special thing for members. But it's great to have you on board either way, as I say. And please, if you've got any for a poor City fan with a cold, any hype points on YouTube, of course they all help the algorithms as well. If you can spare any hype points for the channel, that helps get me out there, gets me noticed, gets me in social media world a little bit more, gets me on the search engines, all that sort of stuff. So like pressing that like button, if you can give us some hype points, if you can share those around, of course, that'd be wonderful. Right, let's go. Let's go about the final part and this look at the rest of the players, and of course Pep, as I said. Last time, 6, as I said in the ratings, is a steady rating for me. It doesn't mean 5 is an average, of course, but 6 means it's a steady, welcoming, competent Premier League, Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup performance. So when I score a 6 to someone, that just means he did a standard job. So that's how I base it, and that's how I think most journals base their ratings as well. Certain guys, certain vlogs don't, but obviously that's my standing on it anyway. So 6 is an okay steady rating. Right, let's start at a guy who's been like 4 or 5 of our players this season, hindered by injury, of course, Ryan Aït-Nouri. Tyrone said O'Reilly has taken advantage of Aït-Nouri's issues, sidelined by a hamstring problem at the end of August and taken longer than expected to get back fully fit. Performance at Swansea was a disappointment and looks consigned to the bench. He scored him just a 4. I think that's a bit harsh from Tyrone. All right, I'm not going to give a massive score, but I think 4's a bit harsh. He's been hit by injury, and I think Swansea, as I mentioned in part 1, are really a trial of a back five that hadn't played much before, if at all, in competitive games, and he had to come straight into that, of course, against, all right, a championship team, but a team that, was having a go. So I think that's a bit hard to sort of base things on the Swansea game anyway. I scored him a 5.5 on that night, the Swansea night, so he was below a standard performance, but he certainly wasn't the lowest on the night, and I think it's a bit harsh to hold that against him. So I don't think we should rate him based on that. I think it's a lack of game time for me. Of course, he's got competition. Of course, he has now with O'Reilly. But from what we've seen at the moment, yes, I'm not going to go 4 out of 10, but I'll go for a 5, and only because we just haven't seen him. It's as simple as that with the injury. So I'm sure there's lots to come from this player. On to another one who has caused us a few problems, hasn't he? And a few hearts to flutter. Rodri. Tyrone said fitness issues have seen him take a backward step. Not started a game since coming off injured at Brentford on October the 5th, and a brief return ended with another setback. Struggling to stay fit, and the concerns in this might go on all season. Sadly, I have to agree with Tyrone. I mean, he scored him a 5, which is a little bit unfair based on the performances so far this season. I mean, certainly performances haven't been a 5. Yes, there's a problem there. Yes, if you think of what's ahead. It's certainly a worry, but those have been put on the back burner a little bit, haven't they, with the performances, of course, of Gonzalez. Another worry, of course, a deeper worry, and Tyrone did touch on it, is, of course, there's no new contract signing, which has been mentioned, and perhaps you should only whisper that perhaps we'll never see a fully fit Rodri again in sky blue. Perhaps he'll be fit somewhere else, but many fans, of course, are drooling over the potential of a Rodri Gonzalez pivot, aren't they? They're all getting all giddy about that. But for me, if he does get back to fitness, he may just fancy another challenge away from City. Now, I hope not, and it certainly won't affect his time at City. I'm sure he'll put the great performances in, and perhaps that'll, if we do get a fully fit Rodri back, we'll offer him more money, and perhaps he'll want to stay. But I just think he might, after this long-term injury, he has these players have too long to think. That's the problem when they're at home or they're doing the rehabilitation on their own with a coach or whatever. They have far too much time to think, and he's done perhaps as much as he perhaps wants to do at City, a bit like Edison. Perhaps his mind might be on for a new challenge, painful as it is to say that. But anyway, I mean, this is the player of the season so far. And he has had a handful of performances, but he's done a good job. He's done fine. So he's got to be at least a 6 for that alone. I don't know where the 5 comes from if he's rating the player of the season as far as Tyrone's concerned. So I give him a 6, as I say. But I'm sure we'll come back to Rodri over the months and, hopefully years. Who knows? Anyway, on to the guy that we just mentioned, Nico Gonzalez. Tyrone said those worries around Rodri are being eased by the form of Gonzalez. A little circumspect at the start of the campaign, but now started 5 games in a row. The first time he's done that for City. It's his highest level since that £50 million move from Porto. So he scored him a 7. Yeah, I think 7's a good reflection. Gonzalez is doing things in a sort of refined, slightly different Pep DM position, perhaps to what Rodri does, and that's right. He's not Rodri, he's Gonzalez, so that's only to be expected. And this is sort of making people sit up. And the thought of, as I said just then, of him and Rodri as a pivot, as mentioned, as people literally salivating at what this could mean. But as far as performances, that's what we have to go off. His most recent have been excellent, though could only have been classed perhaps as competent to good before the last 3 or 4. So people are getting overly excited, and quite rightly. He's doing a great job. But based on his performance curve, yes, I would have to agree with Tyrone. I'll give him a 7. And I think that's a fair judgment, but I think there's so much more to come, and we can't put too much pressure on him. Talking about salivating over double pivots with him and Rodri. We'll have to see, won't we? But certainly a competent performance from a guy I've got a lot of liking for, Gonzalez. Bernardo Silva. Tyrone said your captain starting 10 of 17 games might normally be a concern, but Guardiola's more depth than ever before and knows where and when he needs him. Games against the big beasts are when he proves his worth, and he was outstanding against Liverpool. He scored him an 8. Yeah, very kind. You know me, I love Bernie, always have loved Bernie over the years. How could I not love my namesake? And he is and remains the perfect Pep player. He may not be spectacular at times, and even in the great teams, he was never overly spectacular at times. But when he does play, he does exactly what the boss wants of him. And I think some moments this season we've seen prime Bernardo. All right, he might not quite be in that fifth and sixth gear. He might be back down to third and fourth gears at the moment. But we've seen a little bit of that prime Bernardo again this season. And of course, he's got a lot of mileage under him. The good money is on him, definitely. This being his last season at City. And I don't think we'll realise just what he is till he's gone, unfortunately, but that's how it is. I'm not even sure Pep would want to carry on without Bernardo. We'll talk about that later with Pep, but I'm not even sure he would. When Bernie goes, when Bernie finally flies the nest, I think Pep may fly the nest as well. Yeah, his best was possibly his last. Of course, it was that Liverpool game, which people are remembering because we were on an international break. But his levels of consistency, very few other players can meet them. Not just this season, but season after season, of course, now or ever playing for City. And it has to be, yeah, I mean, all right, I'm not going to go for an 8 because, as I say, it's not quite prime Bernardo, but it has to be a very strong 7 for me so far this season from our little captain. Gianni Reinders, yes, Tyrone said, made a really bright start to his Etihad career and has had good moments since, including the 2 assists against Dortmund last week. He lost his place for the last 2 Premier League games, however, and the feeling persists that he hasn't kicked on as expected. Well, Tyrone still give him a 7. That's still a good score. I think the trouble is when you have really great early performances and then drop off, it's seen as a negative, and it should never be anyway, because that's just how it is. That's just the scale of things for a brand new player, which Reinders is really. And he's sort of struggled as in being spectacular since a quite impressive pre-season, of course, on tour, and debut day, of course. And his best, perhaps not surprisingly, I think has been in the Champions League against better European opposition as well. And of course, he's used to playing internationals, etc. So that's not really a big surprise. And he's perhaps finding the pace and energy of the Premier League a little bit harder to adjust to. It's sort of passing by a little bit at times, which is perfectly reasonable at this stage of his City career. But he has been fairly consistent and deserves full credit. And he's learning on the job, of course, like quite a few City players are at the moment. Probably about 5 or 6 of them still learning on the job at the moment. So I'm not going to push to a 7, but I'm going to push to a 6.5 for me. On to England's assist hero from the other night. Yes, Phil Foden. Tyrone said his season got off to a false start in August, but those days feel a long time ago now. The beating heart of the midfield this season, he's pulling the strings once again. His double against Dortmund was a reminder of his supreme talent, and he's relishing the responsibility given to him in the middle. And he scored him a 9. Yeah, I'm not going to be quite as high. Pep seems to believe in him more than ever now. Hopefully, he's had problems. We know he's had problems. Last season was for other reasons, not particularly on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. But Phil's bounced back this season and just grown and grown as the games have ticked by, and he's responded, doing exactly what Pep's asked of him as well. A bit like Bernie's always done, of course. I think Phil's been a bit more maverick, but I think he's literally Pep's relying on him more. You know, he's an older player. Of course he's relying on him more. He's not always spectacular as Bernie isn't. And in his man of the match performance against Dortmund, again, he wasn't spectacular, but sometimes he just gets on with his job and then pops up, of course, to score the goals and assists, etc. And of course, he plays a lot deeper sometimes when Pep asks him to play deeper against specific opponents. In fact, certainly the Liverpool game, for instance, where you wouldn't have noticed him as much, only purely because of the role he was playing. And if he just appears to have matured perfectly on the pitch. I think, you know, he's come of age. I think Phil Foden, he's still a young lad, of course he is. But I think his performances so far and recently are just making City a much better all-round team, doing the Pep stuff, as I said. So I won't give him a 9, but I'm going to give him a definite big 8, a big 8 for me. On to another guy, another funny one, Ryan Cherky, of course. Tyrone said he's enjoyed an excellent few weeks after an injury-disrupted start to the campaign. 4 goals and 4 assists, a good return, and was brilliant against Swansea and Bournemouth. on the periphery against Liverpool, but you can have those games and he's still a young footballer, of course he is. So he's given a 7. So much potential. Again, a season disrupted by injury that has restricted his learning on the job, which is what it is with some of these players at the moment in a Pep's team. But he's shown enough since returning from injuries to leave us eager to see just how much more he's got in the tank or in his locker, shall we say. And I agree with Simon. I don't think there's much more to say, really. I think it's a 7. It's a rising 7 because I think so much more potential, but so much far to go as well. A lot more needed. And a lot more time on the pitch needed as well, but great potential. So I give him a rising 7. On to Oscar Bob. Yes, last season was supposed to be his breakout season. Injury put a knock on that. This season, coming back from injury, it was expected him, perhaps not his breakout season, but to perform a little bit better than perhaps he was. Tyrone said he hasn't taken advantage of an encouraging start to the season and failing to deliver enough end product when he does play. Looks to be bottom of the pile when it comes to selections out wide at the moment. So he's given him a 5. Again, a bit harsh, I think, for Oscar Bob. A little low on confidence, I'd say, when he has played. And as I said, part of that was coming back from a bad injury, and it's bound to affect a player, even an experienced player, never mind a young lad. Skill is there, it's still obvious, but he appears just a little bit more tentative than he did last season or the season before when he got a chance. And his only piss poor game, like many, of course, was the Villa defeat. But he's got so much to prove. And at the moment, his chances of doing that outside of the odd cup game appear very, very limited, unfortunately, which is such a shame. But 5, bit mean from Tyrone, I think. When he's played, he's been steady, nothing magical. So I'm going to give him a 6. So it's going to be a 6 from me. Savinho, yes, Tyrone said, remains something of an enigma. A goal and an assist against Villarreal was one of the best performances in a City shirt, but hasn't lived up to those standards since, and he's been outshone by Doku. But I still give him a 7, which is good. Of course, he was part of my favourite quotes in my vlogs of the law of diminishing winger return stat. You know, obviously when they're both playing, one does better than the other, etc. Constantly overshadowed on the pitch when he is on the pitch. Not all the time, but constantly by Flavour of the Month Doku, of course. But he does some good work, and we have to believe Pep's got faith in him, given that the recent events, a recent contract, etc. Of course, that may be a ploy to get more money off someone in January or whenever. But I think we've seen enough to be a little bit frustrated by him at times, but we should also remain a little bit patient as well. Although he's not brand new, of course, he has been here, but again, he's only a young lad. I mean, when he has played, it wasn't even a disaster against Villa, where most of the team were, and he's shown that it is worthy of being a little bit patient with him, as perhaps we have been with Doku. I think he deserves at least that. So I'm going to squeeze him. I'm not going to give him a 7. I don't think he's earned that, but I'll squeeze him to a 6.5, and this could either go up or down. Definite work in progress that will be judged possibly next May. If he's still with us, of course, next May. On to the guy we just did mention, Jeremy Doku, of course, enjoying his best season in a City shirt, said Tyrone, by some distance. And his stunning display against Liverpool was maybe the 3rd time this season he's delivered a performance that's right at the top of the list for his best at the club. Finding an end product on a consistent basis and proving a real threat to every defender he comes up against. Scored him a 9. One of the highest, won't be the highest of Tyrone's, but certainly up there with the highest. Yeah, Doku, yes, he's currently the best thing since sliced bread, isn't he? And quite rightly so. And he's not always been unplayable for me. When he gets the rub of the green, the bounce of the ball as he did against Liverpool, he is unplayable. It's as simple as that. It was just one of those can't do much wrong games that come around every now and then. But yes, he'll always have this... he'll always have those, but of course he'll always have the less of those as well. They're not always going to be like that. If you think those Liverpool-esque performances will be there week in, week out, I'm sure you don't. You'll be very disappointed. His Champions League performances perhaps need a little bit of work this season when I think he's played 3 out of 4 or started 3 out of 4. But his performances, goals and assists column will tell the story by the end of the season, won't it? And hopefully it will be to our success and his success. Sorry for the voice, guys. I'm struggling with this at the moment. So I won't give him a 9, but I'm going to give him a very strong, a very good 8 out of 10 for Doku. Yeah, flavour of the month at the moment. Right, Tyrone next was on to Omar Marmoush, back amongst the goals at Swansea, but he knows nothing he does at the moment is going to get him in the team ahead of Haaland, or Doku for that matter. Has to be ready to perform when he does get the odd chance. Tyrone's given him a 6 out of 10. Last season, Marmoush finished still with plenty to prove, I thought. And I think with plenty this season left, he's got nothing has changed. I think he still has a lot to prove if he gets the chances. Another who seemingly has been injured more than he's been available, unfortunately. But with early firing, this guy has to be able to step up at some stage, as and when needed. And he will be needed, I'm fairly sure of that. So desperately needs some more game time, though. Hard to see where that will come just at this point in time. But the door will open, and he needs to be there to push at it when required. With starts, you can count on one hand this season. Swansea was good, but not mind-blowing against Championship level, and a few minutes otherwise elsewhere. But the jury still has to be out on Marmoush, but we remain, as ever, optimistic. We know there's a lot of potential there. This guy can score goals, do great things, but of course he's not really had much chance to prove that or shine so far. So as far as the player of the season rating, I've just marked him one of my lowest at a 5 out of 10 so far, but hope, fingers crossed, more to come. On to the last player before we have a quick look at Pep, and of course we're talking Erling Haaland. Tyrone said a missed penalty against Liverpool was the first major blot on his copybook this season. Not quite, but yeah. But he made up for it with an excellent header to open the scoring. A tally of 19 goals in 15 games is evidence of his stunning impact, and he has gone up to another level with his all-round performances as well. Tyrone's giving him, 10 out of 10. Yeah, you know me. The only 10 out of 10 I ever gave a player was when Aguero, in that 93-20 moment. To be honest with you, that was just the goal because his performance that day wasn't that fantastic, actually. Anyway, I digress. But you can see where, of course, Tyrone is coming from. City bar now a one-man team, aren't we, according to pundits. So Erling must be doing really well, of course. And it's bollocks, of course it is. But his all-round play as well is possibly the best ever it's been for City. And let's face it, it's been a sort of new style of play for a Pep team this season as well. So he's had to adapt. So I think he's found it more to his liking, and he's possibly now more on board than he's ever been. Yes, all right, he's still shit on penalties. If 16 out of 19 in the Premier League is shit, but there you go. And he does miss some easy chances. He misses easy chances and he scores sometimes, but doesn't every striker? He's not alone in that, is he? Every single team in the world wants him. We've got him, and we have to make that count. In 15 starts, he's literally had just one shit performance, simple as that, which was Spurs at home. A couple of average ones, Brighton away, where he still scored, mind you, and Villa away. Otherwise, it's been mainly 8s with a smattering of 9s on his ratings. And our eyes, I think, which are important, can confirm the form he is in. And he can be better, of course he can. And he also needs a rest sometimes. So on that basis, I won't be giving him a 10 out of 10 like Tyrone did. But he will get my highest score of any of the City players in this little two-part special. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I think, he's got more to come, fingers crossed. Erling's going to get better. He will need a rest. He will pick up an injury or two, which we don't want him to, but we know it will happen. Other players will have to step up, but we're not a one-man team, and Erling's done tremendously adapting to this new team that seems to play even more to what he likes. Gives him more service than what he likes. So I'll give him an 8.5. 10 from Tyrone, as I said. Tyrone didn't cover Pepper's course, so a brief word on him while my voice is still holding out. Sorry, guys. Part 1 was fine, but by part 2, I've had to stop and do this about 4 or 5 times and edit it, etc. So my apologies anyway. I'll carry on now till the end. He didn't cover Pep, so a brief word on him. He looks fully focused to me this season. Yes, he picked some odd starting lineups and made some odd substitutions, and that's Pep. He'll never change. He'll always do that. And of course, when he was wrong, he's actually, or when he was seemingly wrong, not hindsight. I mean, a lot of times he said, why didn't he start? Why didn't he start? You know, he brought players on when I've done Pepsi 11s that I had in my start 11, which brought them on into the second half, and the teams look far better. So he's made the adjustments as and when required. And as I said, the team itself is probably playing different sort of football, less possession-based football as well. So Pep's adjusting. Pep's learning as well with perhaps his new number 2 in line, helping the old guy from Liverpool, etc. But I believe he'll want to go out on a high. And I believe our recruitment in bringing in these players at the moment, that Pep can get a great tune out of and adapt, of course. Sort of looking one eye on the future as well. Because I think these players will be able to do a good job for any new manager who comes in. I think, and I am hopeful, that Pep can lift one more Premier League title before he goes. Hopefully it'll be this season. It's going to be bloody tough, though, with this new style of play. This less possession football means we do give away chances. We won't sometimes get the look of the green that perhaps we've had him, probably in a handful of games. But more than ever, we've got some key players in them vital moments, from the keeper straight through to the big lad up front, that can win games for us. So that's all well and good in the cup football. Certainly in the Champions League, you know, people like Donnarumma can probably step up and make the big difference to City of old Premier League, Champions League campaigns, etc., etc. Pep will want to go out on a bang, as I said, with the Premier League or a Champions League title at least this season. And the Champions League doesn't quite look as hard as it did at the start, did it? I mean, it looks as though, because we're getting better, I'm not as frightened now as some of the other European teams. And of course, the Premier League, are we peaking too early? Either way, we can see we think we're back in that as well. So it would be nice, but Pep's got nothing to prove. Of course, he's not. Even if nothing happens, if we don't win anything this season, his contract runs out next season, and people say, well, he's never walked away from a contract. But I'm sure if he agreed with City and Pep agreed, it is possible that after 10 years, which is what it'll be after this season, he may walk, hopefully, with another big prize in the bank on the shelf in the old glory for City and Pep. Of course, that'd be wonderful. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think win or lose, we're going to be on the booze, and Pep will stand down after 10 years. Now, that's a big call. You might stay till, I might have a great season this season, or I want more of this, but that's what I'm going on. That's the basis I'm going on. But as far as this rating is concerned, I'm looking at his season, and I'll have to put it up there with Erling. If I'm going to give Erling Haaland an 8.5 out of 10, then I've got to give Pep an 8.5 out of 10 for this season. I think he's looks up for it, doesn't he? Long may it continue, although, as I said, I think we all have to sit back and think this isn't going to last much longer, so let's enjoy it while we can. Enjoy slagging him off when we think he gets it wrong, and enjoy celebrating when he gets it right. So it's great being a City fan, is it? Some other vlogger would say, thank you, Ian. Yeah, so it is. Anyway, there you go, guys. I thought I'd add that little bit extra on Pep. Let me know what you think about the players and Pep, of course. And this Club Player of the Season special, my thanks, of course, to Tyrone Marshall for his piece that inspired me to just go and do this, because I'd probably do a half-year one of City players. Well, this just inspired me during the international break. Have a rest from doing a kanji and come and do this for you, because, as I say, if you've listened before, I'm doing a little special on Manuel Akanji at the moment. So hope you enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts as well. That's more important, isn't it? Let us know what you think. And again, my apologies for the throw and stop starts and the pauses in speaking, just to make sure I don't start coughing and spluttering. Thanks for watching, guys. As I said, hit those buttons if you want to get in touch with me, or you want to support the channel. There are ways of doing it, or just want to shout out. There's ways of doing that as well. All you have to do to find out how to help the channel is keep watching and listening. Thanks for that, guys. Hope you enjoyed the feature anyway, and please, if you can, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, that'd be wonderful. And if you're not already a subscriber, it'd be great if you could subscribe. It's absolutely free. Also, check out all my social media links. They'll be in the description and comments below if you want to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. We can chat on there and do all things City, of course. Also, if you're into film and TV, don't forget a lot of this channel is film and TV stuff. I love me film and TV like I do City. So if you're into that, have a look. Or even though somebody who might not be that bothered about the football but likes film and TV, give them a kick in my direction. I'll be very grateful. And special thanks as ever to supporters of the channel. Piat6505, they've got a little eBay shop selling film and TV memorabilia mainly, including books, magazines, posters, lots of posters, and they do have some City stuff as well that they've purloined off me over time, so there'll be a few bits and pieces, probably more going on as well. So have a look at Piat6505 on eBay. And yes, if you do go onto eBay, and if you're a member, we do have memberships, 99p a month. You get early access to all my vlogs, so as soon as I do them, you get them. Sometimes it could be months before they're published generally, so a lot of the history stuff, so you have access. The membership gives you access to that. It gives you 10% extra off at Piat6505 if you want to buy any of that memorabilia, so you can actually gain that from being a member and support the channel. That's a great way of supporting the channel, of course, like watching the ads on the original thing that you've seen now, my original feature. That'd be fantastic. So yeah, also before we go, podcasts. If you like your podcasts, I do a podcast with Mike Long in South Korea. It's called Bolt from the Blue, in our 8th season. Yeah, we've had some good fun on there. We're trying to have a bit of humour, generally look at City's games as and when we play them, have a look back. So please check out that. It's on Soundcloud, Spotify, all good places you get your podcasts from. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed everything about this feature, and you didn't mind me asking you about this at the end. And please, all I ever ask for you is to stay safe, everyone, especially you Blues.